live. Am I live? Okay, so we've had a bit of a time. So we were doing our weekly Thursday night FUB Club live and on Instagram, and it stopped working. So we had a message saying your FUB Club is not working, and Facebook wasn't working. So I'm wondering if something catastrophic has happened to Instagram and Facebook, because we had a few people now WhatsApp us and message us saying we can't also refresh our Instagram feeds. So here we are. We normally do Thursday night FUB Club live on Instagram, and we are just going because we are adaptable and we can move over to YouTube. Have you had a message about it?
Yeah, I think our lovely girlies are messaging me.
Well, if you could let them know we're over on YouTube somehow. Or
yeah, but
because
I'm sure they've got better things to do. That they've left work for the day. I'm sure they've got better things to do.
Oh, okay. Well, it was great because we were having a good old chat with various people. But here we are. I think I've got an audience of one, and that's that person over there. Yeah. But we had a whole load of messages sent in, and where was I? I was talking about blepharoplasty, wasn't I?
We were talking about blepharoplasty.
Okay. Yeah. So today's theme is revision surgery, and we have had this question: is it common to need revision after blepharoplasty, or will it last forever? So I started off by saying nothing lasts forever. There is no forever. No surgery makes you immune to aging. It will all kind of, no surgery makes you immune to weight gain again. But surgery tends to be more permanent than other modalities. So a blepharoplasty, will it last forever? An eyelid lift or an eyelid tightening? No, it won't last forever. But I can't think of a time when a patient has come back ever asking for a blepharoplasty to be done again. So it lasts for such a long period of time to a reasonable level. People are so happy for so long that honestly, by the time you're contemplating doing anything about it again, 20 years have passed, 30 years, you're probably, beyond caring too much. I mean, who's to say that? Maybe you care about that forever. But generally, it is uncommon to require a revision blepharoplasty, I would say. So do not trouble yourself too much about that. Have you got a question for me?
Yes, I have got a...
If you haven't, I've got lots here.
I've got one. Is it possible to reposition my implants to have them sit higher without implant exchange?
So breast implants?
Yeah.
And they want them repositioned without sitting higher?
I had surgery 2 years ago with 350cc high profile implants. One swelling and dropping and fluffing occurred.
Yeah, those are things.
I do not love the look of my implants unless I'm wearing a padded bra.
Okay. So that's interesting. It depends on what the dissatisfaction is. So if your implants have dropped, so what can happen is they can be in the right place and they can be lovely, and there's your crease. And then the implant can fall and fall and fall. And as it falls, it sort of bypasses the crease and falls beyond it. And so what happens is the crease and the scar now appears to sit on the underside of the breast. The nipple stays in the same place. So the distance between the nipple and the new crease has elongated. And so you get a nipple that points up, relatively little breast tissue at the top, too much at the bottom, and that's called bottoming out of the implant. That's what bottoming out is. And if bottoming out has happened, then yes, there are ways of addressing this without changing the implant. In fact, in a sort of non-surgical way. They're not always totally reliable, but this is just a described technique. And what you can do under local anesthetic, an in-office procedure, an in-clinic procedure, is you can actually lift the capsule up out of the way, lift the implant up out of the way, find the pocket. You can abrade the pocket by minimal access with a surgical instrument, and then you can place stitches sort of through and back up through the skin to support everything in place and just hold them there. You tie those stitches over a dressing. It's called a bolster approach, and this can be done. It is a technique that's described. I have to say I've never had to do it, but it's out there. That's in the very specific situation of bottoming out. Now, if on the other hand, the implant is just not high enough on your chest, it's just too low, then you can't do that technique under those circumstances, because the difference is with bottoming out, where it started too high but has moved too low, the implant can be migrated back up to the position that you wanted in and held there. But if it was just too low to start, then the capsule has formed all around it in that position. And when the capsule's formed all around it, then you can push as hard as you like upwards, but it's just going to hit this capsule and just be butting up against it. So you cannot force it up. And in those situations, you just got to go back to theatre, open up, divide that capsule at the top, allow the implant to move up, enlarge the pocket up there, and then do something. So that's a formal trip to theatre. You don't necessarily, was the question, do they have to change the implants?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it possible to relocate them without changing the implants?
Yeah, so you can do that without actually changing the implants. So say you had the implants in a year ago and you're just unhappy with that position. So yes, you can remove the implants. You can put them in a sterile area in some iodine solution, whatever you want to use. Keep them safe, keep them sterile, do what you've got to do, and then reuse the same implants. That is perfectly acceptable. That's a reasonable approach. So that can be done, but that requires a trip to theatre and all of that. All you're really saving in doing that is the cost of the implants themselves. So yeah, 2 different approaches for 2 different circumstances. I hope one of them applies to you.
And is this revision surgery?
Yeah, I mean, that's revision surgery. So revision surgery is any kind of secondary procedure, be it corrective or to improve the outcome or whatever it may be. Yeah, if it's the same operation, if it's trying to achieve what you were hoping to achieve the first time, then that's revision surgery.
And do you do revision surgery?
Do I do revision surgery?
Someone asked, but maybe you want to explain the reason we're doing this. Someone asked.
I was asked if I did revision surgery, and I thought, wowzers.
Where have you been?
Crikey. Yeah. So most of my practice, or half or approaching half my practice, certainly.
I'd probably say 60%.
60% of my practice, it feels like the majority of my, okay, it depends how we think about this. In terms of time spent in theatre, by far the majority of my practice is revision cases, because revision cases take longer, and I think I do at least as many, if not more, of them. Primary cases, simple, straightforward cases, yeah, you can sort of knock those out of the park one after the other, but revision cases are very, very, very tailored cases. I like revision surgery, actually. I'm really interested in revision surgery, and for a while I did think about seriously setting myself up as, subspecialism in corrective and revision surgery, because I like it so much. I like the mental engagement of it. I like the challenge. I like the individuality of it. All these things that I really like about plastic surgery fundamentally apply doubly to revision surgery, because it's this very, tailored to the patient approach. However, I have not set myself up as such. And the reason is, thankfully, I don't need to do so much revision surgery of my own surgery, which is lovely. So that would involve revision surgery of other people's cases. And that comes with a lot of baggage. There's a lot of emotional kind of turmoil that the patient has gone through. There's also a lot of kind of formalities and niceties and not wanting to tread on people's toes and stuff like that you don't want to get involved with. So if you need a revision procedure, you are best off going back to the original surgeon. Usually, as long as you have a good relationship with them, and as long as they were able to do the primary surgery, they've got a good reason for why things didn't work out as they should this time, then I'd say go back to the primary surgeon, because they owe you a duty of care. So they will look after you. It's part of your journey. It's what you've come to expect from the whole episode. So that's part of the duty of care. Second, they know what they did during your surgery, and there might be something very specific. In fact, there's a question here about that. There might be something very specific they did as part of your surgery that fundamentally changes how you approach revision surgery, and only they will know that. It's generally best to approach them. And I do revision cases of other surgeons, and sometimes I'm asked by those surgeons to do that, which is first time that happened, that's incredibly flattering. And then you realise it's a sort of poison chalice, but it thankfully to now those have gone well. So it is, yeah, generally I have done them. Yeah, when that happens, it's more, you know, many years down the line. So a recent one was a woman who had had a tummy tuck done actually 10 years earlier and was just emotionally ruined by this tummy tuck. She was so upset by the outcome of it. And there was a sort of slightly different approach that was needed, and we just did that different approach, and she just couldn't return to the original surgeon because she just couldn't sit in the same room as that surgeon. And so that, you know, and those can be incredibly rewarding actually, just to see how someone's life has been changed for the worse for so long, and then how you can, you know, how it can be changed for the better again. So yeah, do I do revision surgery? I mean, yeah, do a lot of revision surgery.
When did you last do any revision surgery?
I mean, what, this
Monday.
Yeah, Monday. Yeah, we're doing it all the time. I think I'm going to put a post out on revision surgery, on the whole thing, about you know, yeah, just what it means, because we have, when we see patients and we consult with them, we send information about the procedures. So I will see them and I'll have a consultation which will be very tailored to them. But then I will write them a letter about their consultation. But that letter will take, it's got to be transcribed and so on. So in the meantime, I like that patient to have some general information about what they're coming in for. So if they're coming for breast augmentation, then boom, I press the button that says send them the information about breast augmentation, whatever it may be. Now we have one for secondary breast surgery. And when I was writing that sort of blurb on secondary breast surgery, I thought, wow, where do you start? Because secondary breast surgery as a topic is so huge and so tailored and so specific. Where on earth do you start? So it's this kind of information that says, well, secondary breast surgery has to be tailored to your needs, and please come in for a consultation and we'll work out exactly what you need. And so I think it's not that useful for the patient. And since then, I've really sort of crystallized and tailored my thoughts about what secondary breast surgery means. And here it is in a nutshell. I think I have it crystallized in a way that's sort of very, very simple. And it's my strategy, it's my algorithm. So when someone's coming in for secondary breast surgery, so they've had breast implants and they need something else doing. First question, there are only 3 questions. The first question is, do you want your implants out and left out, or do you want your implants out and replaced? The dog is crying to be let in. That's really unfortunate. It's very distracting. So, do you want? So, first question: do you want your implants out and left out? Otherwise, you'll whistle. Do you want your implants out, or do you want your implants out and other implants put back in?
He is cute though.
He's really cute, but he's just wagging his tail like mad, thumping away next to me. And I'm trying to maintain a stream of thought here. Okay, so we've got the dog.
Yeah.
Are we all settled?
We're settled.
Good. Secondly, do you need an uplift with that? And if so, which kind? Often the answer is yes. And third, do we need to think about fat grafting with that? Yes or no? And there are some really good reasons to add fat grafting, such as if you've got implant rippling, you can thicken the soft tissue envelope so that implant rippling doesn't happen, isn't visible. Or sometimes we're removing implants completely and therefore replacing some of that volume with fat. Or sometimes we're downsizing implants and then partially bringing you back up to that with fat. So those are the sort of 3 main things. And we got examples of every single permutation of implants out, implants back in, uplift, no uplift, an uplift with a scar just around the nipple, an uplift with a scar around the nipple and downwards and in the crease, a so-called anchor scar. And in some cases, it's particular to secondary breast surgery, you can end up with a scar around the nipple and in the fold, but without the vertical scar, because sometimes with very small, quite heavy implants in narrow-breasted women, it just elongates the breast without widening it. So those are all different permutations, and then fat grafting with or without, under every circumstance. So yes, I will revise the thing about revision for breast surgery, because there is so much to it, and genuinely every case is different, and we need to tailor it to you. So that's that.
All right.
Okay, I've got this one here.
Instagram's back up.
Ah, is it?
I don't know if it's possible to do both.
Yeah, it is possible to do both, actually. So why don't we do that? Okay, let's go. Look at me. You've got to have the dog, because when he's near me, he just whittles. Or just lock him in. Look, just put him in the house. Okay. Right, I'm now trying to upload to Instagram. So cancel. Do that. Upload failed. Try again. It really does not want me live on Instagram. Cancel. No. Discard video. There we go. Delete. It's not letting me do it. It just keeps showing me my story, but it doesn't let me add a new story.
You don't need a story. You need to flick that way, and you need to go live.
Ah, okay.
Okay.
That's it. Okay.
That's
right.
how you do it. Stick with me. I'm down with the kids.
I'm now live. Apparently, I'm now live. Okay. Are we back again? It's funny. So, for those of you who lost us, Instagram, I think Instagram went down because everyone's Instagram seemed to just go down. Hello, we're back again. Hey, you. Hey, all you lovely people. So I have been on YouTube just now, and I'm still on YouTube, broadcasting live on YouTube. But it's been a slightly lonely place over there. So I'm glad to be back with you lot. Now, I'm going to plug my YouTube channel. The YouTube channel is great. So there's something like, what, 60, 70 sort of shortish snippet videos on YouTube. And I reckon if you wanted to, if you just spliced those YouTube videos together, you basically don't need to come and have a consultation with me, because it's everything I say during the consultation is there. Please come and have a consultation. I love meeting you and I love seeing you guys. But there's a lot of good stuff on there, and you can often find the answer to your question. Whenever I get asked a question so often that I think I must make a video about this, I do, and put it on YouTube. So our YouTube channel is, what is it, Eterno360 Clinic? Yeah. Or just if you type in Eterno360, you'll get us. You'll see our logo. You'll see me and me and me and me and lots of kind of thumbnails. So that's us on YouTube.
You'd had a great thumbnail last week from the live.
Oh yeah, it was like that. Something like that. It was sort of guess the caption type thing. So maybe we'll tell you what, if we put it in the right place in this video, we'll get that caption again. Look, I'll just do it now. There we go. Let's see if it auto selects this one.
Crazy eyes.
I do have crazy eyes in this. Okay, so we've been talking about secondary breast surgery. Hey, you. I haven't seen you for too long. I'd love to see you. How are you doing? How's the gang? How's the family? I hope everyone's well. Send my big hugs, big virtual hugs.
So we've got 19 minutes left. We need the live
guys.
Questions.
So you come at us with your questions. We only have 19 minutes left because we missed so much of it faffing around with Instagram. Hello, you again. Good to see you. Right. We were asked here. I have had an uplift, a breast uplift, but my breasts have drooped again. Can it be redone? Yes, it can be redone. A breast uplift can be redone. But it is one of those situations I was talking about a little while ago where, and if you missed it, it's on YouTube because Instagram went down, where it's really important to know exactly what the surgeon did the first time. Now, when we are doing a breast uplift, with most kinds of breast uplift, there is this thing called a pedicle. And a pedicle, when we move the nipple, we don't sort of detach the nipple and move the nipple and then that's it. We leave the nipple attached on a tongue of breast tissue with the skin taken off it. And with that, you can sort of rotate it to where you need it to go. And that tongue is buried and you never see it. All you see is the nipple come back out where we want it to. And that's called the pedicle. Now, pedicles aren't designed in a single way every time. If they were, it'd be easy. They can be designed from below. So here's my nipple on the end here and I'm moving it that way. Or they can be designed from above. You can rotate it. Or they can be designed from the outside or the inside or above out and above in and below in, everywhere. And from the base or the central mound pedicle. They can be designed everywhere. So if I was going to design your nipple pedicle like this, but someone has already designed it like that, then this thing I'm designing already has a big scar across it there. And if I was to raise that, then the nipple will die. So I kind of need to know, if your previous surgeon has designed it that way, then I also need to design it that way. Now, we don't always know, and you can go and actually explore the pedicle and try to work out where the scar tissue is. It's incredibly hard to do. The simplest thing is just to get your old op note and see, where is this surgeon's pedicle? Hopefully they've documented it. If they haven't, then there are other approaches we can do. And in those situations, you just be very conservative and you get less of a lift and you base it on a huge pedicle. So there are ways around it. But yes, it can be redone again. It absolutely can. Not that infrequent for it to be redone. We had photos. Can we use those photos? So a patient has sent us photographs, and she wanted an opinion on whether she was a candidate for a periareolar mastopexy.
Oh, I was just looking at those right this second.
Okay, so if you are there, you have sent us your photos very kindly.
I'm just checking there's nothing
incriminating. So we want no nipples. Oh, that's okay.
There's no name, there's nothing
okay.
on it.
So this lovely patient, there you are. Just got to switch this ring flash off. There we go. Has said to us, am I... yeah, there's nothing there, and I'll save it there too. Okay, so has said, and can we see the sideways photo too?
Yeah,
that's
just
really useful.
the sideways one.
Am I a candidate for... Off again. Yeah, so there we go. And there we go. Right. Has said, what was the actual question?
Am I a candidate for a breast lift with just scarring around the areola area only?
Yep. So what this is talking about is a periareolar mastopexy. A donut mastopexy, it's sometimes called a periareolar mastopexy. And that is with a scar only around the areola. Now, a scar only around the areola works by having a bigger circumference on the outside, which is then pleated into the smaller circumference in the middle. So it leaves you with a sort of wrinkly scar at first, but that settles down as long as you don't try to get too much of a lift with this. Some surgeons never do them. For years, I never did them. And there are 1,000 ways of making this operation not work, and not many ways, I think one, of making it work really well. And I find it now works really well. Now, the problem with a periareolar mastopexy intrinsically is you're scrunching all this skin. And the way that you get a lift, by the way, of the nipple is instead of making it a concentric circle that you're scrunching in, you make it an eccentric circle. So the nipple's at the bottom, your circle that you're cutting out is based in an upwards direction. And when you recentralize it, the nipple sort of migrates into that higher circle. And you can get up to 3 centimeters of lift in that way. Very good, very effective technique. However, once you've done that, you've tightened everything. So the tissues are pushing back out. And where is the weakest part of this repair? It's the scar you've just made. And so instead of, skin stretching or whatever, say you put implants in at the same time, or even just your breast pushing out, it's going to want to stretch and widen that scar. And so what can happen is you can end up with stretching of that scar and the nipple becoming droopy again, but now with a great big stretched scar around it. And that is why in many surgeons' heads and hands, it is a bad technique that they won't go near. However, there is one way to make it a good technique only, and that is to use a permanent stitch. The stitch that you use to scrunch those things in together must be a non-dissolving stitch. I believe there's no other way. And that locks the circumference into what you define it to be surgically. And well, I can't look at that.
No, exactly. Trust me, Karen. Karen.
Why?
Karen.
So you can't lock the. What was I saying?
So around.
You so you need to use a permanent suture basically, and that permanent suture locks the. It cannot re-stretch back out, and so it's the only way of doing it. The trouble is, a lot of stitches are sort of scrunchy or prickly on the underside, and will give you a knot if they're in there permanently. They'll give you a knot that sort of rubs the underside of the skin. And so there's only one kind of permanent suture that you can leave in there forever, not so deep down, it's relatively superficial, that is soft enough to just sit there forever. And so that's what you've got to use. It's quite hard to come by. If you ask your theatres for it as a surgeon, they will look at you and they'll say, huh? And you've got to persuade, yes, you can get it. Yes, it really exists. Here it is. I have some, just, there you go. And we've got it. We actually have them.
We have it.
We've sourced them.
We have it.
Ourselves. And so it can be done. So that's the only way it will work. Now, going back to this patient. Can I see that photograph again?
Yeah.
So
bear with.
I don't think you are a good candidate. Hello. I don't think you're, why am I not looking at this one?
Because it's down again, I think.
It's down again. So they've waved back at us now.
No, that was ages ago.
Oh, right. Okay. All right. So I don't think you are a good candidate for a nipple lift. And much of my reason for that is I don't think you need, can I have the sideways? I don't think you need any lift. What you have, so Just Kimbo is saying it's not down.
Oh.
So can I look at this camera now?
Sorry guys, we've just a rubbish evening with
this is
stuff. It's not showing on my phone, so it looks like, to me, it's down.
Okay, so here we go. And this patient, when we think about where, when we think about where the nipple should be, the nipple level, the ideal nipple position is in it is the crease, the breast crease. It should be at or above that level, as it is in this case. I wonder if I can zoom in there. As it is in this case. So there is the crease about there. There is the nipple that's been sort of zoomed out there. If we were to just move that nipple upwards, which is all a nipple lift will do, you will just end up with a nipple that is too high on the chest. And that's all that will achieve. It won't be an aesthetic advantage. Now, what I think is really going on is that there is breast deflation here. And this looks like involution, which means that the breast has been very inflated. So I suspect this person has had kids, has breastfed. When they were breastfeeding, their breasts were really enlarged. And when that breastfeeding sort of has stopped, then the breast tissue has involuted, which means sort of, you know, regressed. And that has caused this appearance. But the nipple has actually stayed in a relatively good position. So you are someone who, if you wanted volume replacement, so with implants or possibly fat graft, then that volume replacement would do the job for you, and you'd have a really nice outcome with that alone, I believe. I say fat graft maybe because A, I can see that you're incredibly lean and you may not have a lot of fat to give us, maybe elsewhere in your body. B, what fat graft on its own does not do is create projection. It doesn't make so it doesn't have structure. An implant is an object, and it's got a width and a height and a projection. It's got depth, structure. Fat graft is kind of like trying to make a sandcastle out of dry sand. You pour it onto the sand, it just goes splurges. And so you can fill what's there, but it won't really sort of project out that breast, which I think is what that breast more needs. You could have multiple stages of fat grafting, so you could put a layer in and get that, and then you could do it again, and you could, in that way, stack it and get increasingly more projection every time. But that's a real labor of love. That would take multiple stages. It's a lot of recovery times. It's a lot of expense for multiple revision procedures. That's, you know, really the simple thing for you would be to have breast implants. And I think that would be, you know, a really good option for you if you would like to have larger volume. And that will also, you know, I don't want to say breast implants cause lift. That's the wrong strategy. You want to decide what volume you want first, but really in this case, that it's kind of fullness that you're looking for. And you don't have nipple droop. So I don't think we need to do something that specifically addresses nipple droop. You do not have it. So there you go.
But come in and we'll do the measurements.
Come in and we will do the measurements. Exactly. So we need to see. Yeah, absolutely. And there's sometimes an element of, you know, we can just tighten the whole skin envelope of the breast without lifting the nipple. And that would be that concentric tightening. What is the minimum scarring you can have with breast implants? So the minimum scarring you can have with breast implants, I don't even know it's the minimum. I just decided to measure one day. The smaller the implant is, the less the scarring, because you physically need less space to get it in. My standard breast implant, what I actually mark on the patient, what I mark on the body is a 5 centimeter scar. I always try to come in less than that. So I always try, that's my, you know, maximum. If someone had really big implants, it would exceed that, but generally something up to about 400 cc's, you know, 5 centimeters is fine. And I always try to make it 4. And actually this one patient I was looking at, I thinking that's a really small scar. I measured it, it was 3.5 centimeters. So yeah, 3.5 centimeters is certainly possible and achievable, and I think fairly routinely. I don't know that I get down to 3. Yeah, the scars from a breast augmentation are so well hidden. They're in the crease to the extent that the partners of some women with breast implants don't know they've got breast implants, which kind of blows me away. Guys, focus a little bit, I'd say. You know, pay attention. It's not that, you know, you can tell. Of course you can tell. But yeah, that's what they tell me. It's certainly not the scarring that is giving anything away. You can get really natural, lovely looking results. I mean, it's a tiny scar. Gosh, there's so much more we do. Haha. Yeah, right. I mean, they're not noticing. Really? Really? Or do they just not care? I think they just don't care. Anyway, we digress. This is a whole different Instagram. Right, I'm going to get
you a few more views there.
I'm going to try to get back on track. God, what's happened tonight?
It's rubbish.
It's been
tonight.
rubbish.
Sorry, everyone.
Oh man, I tell you, was Instagram ever down, or was it a technical problem at our end? It was down.
It was down, yeah.
Okay. It had to happen at 7 o'clock on a Thursday. I mean, don't they know this is when we do FUB Club, right? Don't they know? Okay. Now, here we have someone who's asked about capsular contracture and said, what is capsular contracture and how do I know if I have it? Okay. We're going to regain control in the last 5 minutes. Capsular contracture is a complication of breast implants. So it might tie in nicely, asking about breast implants. So when breast implants are put in, when a silicone, anything silicone is put into the body walls off that silicone. So it forms a layer of scar tissue all the way around it. So essentially you get this bag, this complete bag of scar tissue around a breast implant, and that is called a capsule. That happens in every case with every breast implant, without exception. It always happens, it never doesn't happen. And it's no bad thing, and capsules are usually thin and supple and not usually a problem. But in a subset of breast implants, that capsule can thicken and harden and start to squeeze. And when that happens, it's called adverse capsular contracture, or ACC, adverse capsular contracture. And if you've got a pancake, sort of pancakey, floppy, you know, nice shape, natural shape breast implant, and then you just put it in your hands and squeeze it. If you squeeze it on all sides, it will form a sphere. Essentially, what you're doing is you're reducing the surface area of this object, and the 3D object with the smallest surface area to volume ratio is a sphere. That's why there are so many spheres in nature, by the way. So it's just sort of creating, it's turning into a sphere. So when this is a breast implant in your body, we didn't put in a sphere for a good reason. No one wants this kind of ball stuck on your chest. And that's what it can make it look like. It can sort of make it higher and sticking out more projecting, and harder to the touch. And it can also be painful in extreme cases. And so that's how, to get to the next bit of your question, how do I know if I have adverse capsular contracture? Everyone has capsule. But if you have adverse capsular contracture, you may be able to feel it as hard. You may be able to see it as a shape change, and it may feel painful. And those are the different stages, the different severities of adverse capsular contracture. The most severe, stage 4, being painful, and the least severe, stage 1, you have a capsule, but it's not causing a problem. Everyone with implants has stage 1. And so that's how you know you have it. And the follow-up question was, do I need if I've got adverse capsular contracture, do I need a total capsulectomy? Okay, so the way that we can address capsular contracture is in different ways, a sort of stepwise approach. You can do what's called a capsulotomy, which is where you open up the capsule, you just make a cutting. An otomy of anything is just cutting into something. Or you can do an ectomy, which is an ectomy of anything is a removal of something. So an appendicectomy or an appendectomy, if you're in the States, is removal of your appendix. And a capsulectomy is a removal of your capsule. And a capsulectomy can be partial or total. And there's sort of no right answer to that. A partial capsulectomy would be if the capsule is sort of partially damaged, but not partially damaged, partially thickened, partially unhealthy, but the rest of it's okay. So you might just remove that bit. Whereas a total capsulectomy is where you're just removing the entire capsule often in one piece. Why don't you just always do a total capsulectomy? Well, sometimes if the capsule is stuck down onto the rib cage, so if the implants were put in under the muscle, then the superficial surface is on the underside of muscle and the deep surface is on rib cage. And it can be very, very hard to get that capsule out in one piece. So without doing all this damage to the rib cage and making it bleed and making it very painful and going into muscle. So you might just decide, look, you're better off just doing a partial capsulectomy and leaving what's deep. On the other hand, if your implants were put in above the muscle, it's generally much easier, much less bloody, much more straightforward to remove the entire capsule because the superficial surface is under breast and the deep surface is over muscle. So there you go. Those are the two types of capsulectomy. There's a load of questions we didn't get the time to answer.
No, because we had such a
disappoint. Oh, guys. So look, it will, I hope, if Instagram get their act together, I'm gonna look at the news and see what happened. But if Instagram get their act together and Facebook and everyone, then it will be here as usual next time. We'll try and go through some of the previous questions you had. Email us in, message us. It's always lovely to hear from you. Otherwise, I shall see you next week. Take care, guys. Bye now.